There is a creature on Earth right now that literally farms its own food, builds intricate underground cities, makes highly coordinated collective decisions, and can instantly warn its entire community of danger. And the wild part? It's so incredibly small, most of us barely even notice it as we walk right past it or step over it. Today, we're exploring the hidden civilization of the ant in this explainer. And specifically, we're going to look at how a 1400-year-old mention in the Quran perfectly aligns with modern biological science. We're going to look closely at this fascinating intersection of ancient text and modern biology to uncover the staggering reality thriving right beneath our feet. Imagine the grand, sweeping scale of this moment. You've got this incredibly powerful king, Prophet Solomon, or Suleiman in Arabic, and he is leading an absolutely enormous army across the land. And the sources tell us this wasn't just your standard human army. It included birds and other creatures, all under his direct command. So as this massive, earth-shaking force approaches a valley inhabited by ants, something extraordinary happens. The Quran recounts this specific event in chapter 27, verse 18. Basically, a single ant issues this urgent, precise warning to the colony. "O ants, enter your dwellings, lest Solomon and his armies crush you." Now, at first glance, you might read that and think, well, it's just a simple story. But hidden within this brief passage are some deeply fascinating observations about ant behavior. It sets up a premise of complex communication and awareness that modern science has literally spent centuries trying to figure out. So right here, where the ancient text meets modern biology, a massive question arises. How is such rapid colony-wide communication actually possible? I mean, how do thousands, sometimes millions, of ants instantly share what seems to be a single mind to communicate danger? For the longest time, scientists would observe ants acting in perfect unison and just wonder, exactly how are they coordinating all this so flawlessly, especially without, a central commander shouting orders over a megaphone? Well, it turns out the answer to the mystery of this incredibly rapid communication isn't sound, and it isn't sight like we use. It's something much more subtle and, honestly, incredibly efficient. The secret is entirely chemical. It's all about pheromones. Ants communicate using these invisible chemical signals. And what's really interesting here is that you can think of them as tiny, highly specific packets of information. So when a worker ant discovers food, it leaves a very specific pheromone trail right on the ground as it heads back to the colony. Then other ants use their sensory organs to detect this exact trail and follow it directly to the food. But, and here is where it gets absolutely crucial, when a threat appears, like, say, a massive army approaching, ants release completely different chemical signals. These signals instantly trigger alarm responses throughout the entire colony. Within mere seconds, thousands of ants react as if they're operating with one shared mind. So that ant mentioned in the Quran, warning its colony about an approaching threat, it is strikingly consistent with the reality we now know. Ants really do possess highly sophisticated, chemical-based systems for danger communication. But beyond just communication, we have to look at how they actually live. Because what looks to us like a simple, unremarkable anthill on the surface is, in reality, a highly organized, complex society. Inside these colonies, there is zero confusion. It is a bustling metropolis where every single individual has a specific job. You have the queen, and her sole responsibility is breeding. Then you have the workers. They're basically the engine of the city, constantly foraging, building, and nursing the developing larvae. And finally, the soldiers, who act as a dedicated defense force against external threats. Now, many of these worker ants will spend their entire lives serving the colony without ever reproducing themselves. Individual gain, it simply doesn't exist here. It's entirely sacrificed for the success and survival of the community. In so many ways, these colonies perfectly resemble highly organized human cities, just operating right beneath our feet. And to build these massive underground cities, they need immense physical power. Just consider this for a second. What if you or I could lift 20, 30, or even 50 times our own body weight? I mean, for us, that's comic book superhero territory, right? It's physically impossible. But for an ant, that's just a regular Tuesday. The crucial point is that their incredible strength comes directly from their tiny size, combined with a highly efficient muscle structure. This unique physiology is exactly what allows them to carry objects that are massively heavier than themselves. So to put that into perspective, the next time you see an ant dragging a huge leaf or a massive crumb across the pavement, remember what you're actually witnessing. You are looking at one of nature's most powerful creatures relative to its size. Now, to actually leverage that immense strength, their bodies are engineered like living, breathing multi-tools. Despite their tiny size, ants are highly sophisticated organisms. Their bodies are basically broken down into three main sections.
the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. And those antennae on their heads, they aren't just simple feelers. They are highly tuned chemical receptors, perfectly adapted for detecting those chemical pheromones we talked about earlier, as well as picking up on very subtle vibrations in the ground. Then you have their mandibles, these powerful jaws that can cut tough materials, carry heavy boulders, build their complex nests, and successfully fend off predators. And of course, their 6 legs provide remarkable mobility and stability across almost any terrain you can think of. Every single segment of their body is completely optimized for peak efficiency and survival. It truly is a tiny masterpiece of biological engineering. And they use those built-in tools for something that might actually blow your mind. They farm. Seriously. We humans often think we invented agriculture, but certain species, especially leafcutter ants, absolutely beat us to it, and by millions of years. These ants use those powerful mandibles to collect pieces of leaves and transport them deep underground. But actually, scratch that, here is the amazing part. They do not eat the leaves. Nope. Instead, they use the decaying leaves as compost to cultivate a highly specific, nutritious fungus. And this carefully tended fungus garden becomes their primary food source. In other words, these tiny creatures actively practice sophisticated farming. Scientists consider this to be one of the absolute most remarkable examples of agriculture entirely outside the human world. It's just wild to think about. But it begs the question, how does a creature with a brain literally the size of a grain of sand manage a farm or build a whole city? Well, it happens through a fascinating process called swarm intelligence. Let's say, for example, the colony needs to find a new nesting site. It's like a giant puzzle they solve together. Step 1, scout ants go out and explore various different locations in the environment. Step 2, these scouts return and share their findings throughout the colony using those chemical pheromones. And step 3, rather than one big boss or leader making a choice, a gradual consensus emerges among the collective. The colony works together to evaluate the options and collectively selects the absolute most suitable home. It is a phenomenal display of shared intelligence, totally overriding the limitations of the individual. So, why does this matter to you and me today? Well, because swarm intelligence isn't just some fascinating quirk of nature. It is actively shaping our human future. How this brilliantly illustrates the connection is that today, researchers are directly studying ant behavior to create ant-inspired algorithms. These biological models are now being used to solve super complex routing problems in computer science. They're helping to develop more sophisticated artificial intelligence, and they're even being used to program fleets of robots to work collaboratively without a central controller. So, nature's smallest engineers, operating in the dirt right beneath our feet, are literally helping to shape the cutting-edge technology of tomorrow. The strategies they've used for millions of years are right now serving as the blueprints for our most advanced systems. No way we could have predicted that, right? When we revisit that Quranic account of the ant warning its colony, and we pair it with the revelations of modern science, we see so much more than a simple narrative. We see a creature that lives in highly organized societies, communicates complex danger signals, works collectively for the greater good, and demonstrates extraordinary cooperation. The sources note that while the Quran's primary purpose is guidance, not biology, it repeatedly invites humans to observe the natural world and reflect upon its signs. And the story of the ant is an incredibly powerful reminder that greatness is not always measured by size. The next time you see an ant crossing your path, just pause for a second. Think about the massive hidden civilization thriving right below you. And ask yourself, if the most extraordinary wonders and greatest lessons are hidden within the smallest creatures, what else in this world are we completely failing to notice? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep observing, and we'll see you next time.